All right. Number two, outfit of the day. Let's see. What do I want to talk about today? I had a few thoughts yesterday, and maybe we'll just go over these. I really did enjoy talking yesterday. Um, I think I like talking. It really made me feel, just after making that video, it kind of really did make me feel a little more conscious throughout the day. So I was thinking, I was going throughout my day, and I was thinking more of what am I thinking? you know, in the sense of I wanted to capture ideas that I could talk about, and I could probably further explore while recording for whatever memories and whatnot. Well, one of the thoughts that I had yesterday was this kind of pressure. So I don't know. You get on social media, you start consuming, you start scrolling, and at least I guess the kind of, let's say, the content I want to make, it's probably more in the mm, philosophical realm, perhaps. Like I like thinking about kind of life and psychology and philosophy and the meaning of life, the meaning behind the things that we do and the feelings that we feel, um, kind of what we should do with our lives, what it is to live a good life, kind of that mumbo jumbo, that uh, totality, I guess, of uh, way of thinking. I don't even know what I'm trying to say, but one of the things and the conflict that I was thinking about was it's hard for me to think about creating an original thought or an original piece of content. And it's hard because I don't know if I have the capability for it. I mean, I this a grip that I have. I guess this is a recurrent thought that I tend to have is, which is, oh, I don't feel like I'm a very original, creative person, right? Um, I've never thought I was, even when I was a kid. I was never a very creative individual. I was never good at writing. One an example comes to mind is when I was in the first grade. Um, we had a competition at school. Let's call it a competition, in which we had to write up a short story, right? And it was in school, like with our English teacher. We wrote a short story, or it was maybe a writing teacher. I don't know. It was, I don't even remember if it was in English or Spanish, but it was writing a short story and then submitting it, and then people, we got selected top 5 people or something in the first grade. I don't know, 90 kids, right? Um, and I remember I'm just having such difficulty coming up, like, with something, with a short story. I didn't know what to write. And I had, of course, the pressure of it needed to be really good. So my mind in the first grade, and sad to admit this, but my mind immediately went to, well, I can just write about something that it's already good, and I know it's good. I love this movie. It was called Nanny McPhee. Some people might know what the movie is, and I just literally just wrote somewhat the plot of Nanny McPhee because I love that movie. I thought it was so interesting. Um, and that's what I did. And I ended up being selected. I'm just, I guess, the person, the director or whatever, the teacher, or at that point, whoever was selecting the stories, was not aware of the movie, and didn't recognize that I literally plagiarized the plot to the Nanny McPhee movie, and I was like this. And I remember, I mean, I was feeling this sense of guilt, right? Of like, well, it's not really mine. In kind of coming back to the whole thing, the main thought is that, yeah, I've always had difficulty, I feel, coming up with a creative thought, right? But then as I think more about it, and as I guess, grew up and I started thinking about it, I've really come to the conclusion, I guess, that what really, what really is a truly unique or truly original thought from anyone? At the end of the day, right, we, each human being, is really a aggregate of all of the experiences that you lived, but also of all the people that you've shared those experiences with. Um, and again, I'm not very creative, and it pains me to say that. I'm more of an analytical person, but I do enjoy the arts. I, of course, many people, I'm sure everyone does. Um, but there is a really beautiful, I guess, poem written by I don't even know if it's an, it might have been some random person on Reddit, but a poem nonetheless, or maybe not a poem, but a beautiful script of writing. And the main essence of it was that you are as thinking like a scrapbook of all the people that you've loved in your life. You know, it said something about how I still cook ramen like my roommate in college taught me how. I I still, I don't know, mm, what's something else. I mean, I still write the opening to my letters like I learned from, I don't know, my best friend in middle school. Um, I still I still tie my shoelaces with the quirky way that my friend, when in, I don't know, what was it, fourth grade, fifth grade, taught me how to do it. You know, um, it's the tiny, like, small little things, right, that you do throughout your life or throughout your day that makes up your life. They're sourced from other people for the most part, right? I believe that nowadays. And same applies to thought and opinions and thinking, right? You are an aggregate of all the people that have shaped your life up to the point that you're at. So it is unfair for me, and for that matter, for anyone, to put on that pressure to create an original piece or an original something before it's good enough to be shared to the world, right? It's not fair because it's highly unlikely, and it's pretty much impossible, in my opinion. Um, just given what we've established. So I don't know. Yeah, just it's not fair, and it shouldn't be. And at the end of the day, what I want to talk about and share really is just my opinion and my outlook on things. It doesn't have to be creative, you know. It doesn't have to be original either. Like I feel like I'm highly influenced by all the stuff that I consume, and my opinion changes pretty much every day. And if you ask me today about my opinion on something, in a year from now, it'll probably be vastly different. It will be for the most part. I, I've experienced that with a lot of things I believed in my life. As I grew older and I guess my brain developed, and I experienced more. So, yeah, at the end of the day, I want to share just my opinions and my takes and my learnings and my questions, right? The things that I'm pondering about and I want to learn more about and I've been learning about, and not feel the pressure that I need to put out something useful for someone, I guess. I don't want to put the pressure on myself that I need to come up with rules or absolutes of like human nature or like the way things are, or how to live your life the good way. Like, I don't. Who am I to decide those things, right? Who? What do I know to come up with these absolutes and this black and white statements, whether they're true or false? It's too much pressure to put on myself to say, well, I need to come up with things that are true. No, I don't. I don't care either. I want to share what I think and what is true to me now, which is another whole nother conversation of what is true and what is false. And at the end of the day, it's a lot more about the perspective and the gray. But anyways, yeah, it's a thought that I had. But don't. It's too much pressure, and it just going to lead to analysis paralysis, right? Or paralysis from analysis. Um, and I think it's silly. Even the greatest, like the greatest minds, were influenced and shaped by other great minds, right? Um, I mean, one of the guys, and this might be slightly controversial, but one of the people that I used to follow very closely, and I don't anymore, but I still think there's huge value in some of the things that he says in some of his work is Jordan Peterson. And like when I was consuming a lot of his content and read his books, I mean he's a clinical psychologist and like he takes a lot of influence. Like a lot of this his views are shaped by Dostoevsky and Jung and Nietzsche and a lot of these thinkers, right? So even him, right, who I consider to be a very capable and clearly a very successful person, right? And let's say um, what's the word I'm trying to say? Like a person of respect in the area that they're an expert on. I guess an expert. It's the word that I'm looking for. But even him, you know, a lot of his ideas and thoughts and conclusions are formed from what he's learned from other people. So like if you read through his 12 laws of whatever it was I even forgot what the name of the book is. Um, Great book, forgot the name. Um, 12 laws of order or something, perhaps I don't remember. Um, yeah, like you're reading through it and you're thinking, well, this all sounds familiar. Like it's nothing new or revolutionary. It's not like you're not finding a new element, or you're not defining a new law of physics. It's a different way to portray a thought, and perhaps that is useful for some people, right? Like perhaps the way it was portrayed initially, it was good for some people didn't like it, or some people didn't understand it, and then somebody else takes that idea, gnaws on it and process it through their own existence and their own experience, and then kind of molds it into something else, portraying the same idea, but now from their point of view and their perspective. And perhaps it has the same essence, it is the same thing, but different, packaged differently, and perhaps it's useful for a different set of people, or more people, or less people. But you know, it is unique in its way. and that has its value too, right? Um, it has its value. So it really is unfair to put a such a, I don't know, expectation to create something that's never been created before, something original and revolutionary. That's it. It's enough to just think about something and give your thoughts about it. At the end of the day, it's valuable. Everyone's perspective is valuable. So, that's it. Yeah, that's one of the thoughts I had that I wanted to chat about, or at least process. Right. Um, there's a few more things that I saw today that I wanted to talk about, but I don't think I'm ready to dive deeper into them without rambling for like maybe an hour, because I hadn't thought about it too much. Um, yeah, I guess another thing, and that's more just observation, is how hard it is to do this. It really is hard to articulate what I'm thinking, um, and find the right ways for it to sound as good as it feels in my head, if that makes any sense, right? Like I tend to have a lot of big feelings and thoughts about things, and they sound and not sound, but they seem and feel so much more impactful and majestic, yes, inside of my head. But then as they are converted into words and they come out, I realize that they don't sound as good, or they don't sound as impactful or awesome as they were in my head. And it really puts into perspective, not perspective, but it really, um, what's the word I'm looking for? See, in this, for example, accentuates, I guess, how much of a skill it is. Um, maybe an art form, even to speak, to be a speaker, and to to communicate, right? It really is a something that you need to get good at, and some people are gifted at it. Of course, that's with everything. Some people are born talented at certain things, and that's not one of mine. I guess that's the point I'm getting at, is that I don't feel I'm really good at this, at articulating how I feel in what I think. At least not without thinking a lot, I guess. Um, and I do hope that this exercise helps me become better at it, because it's something that I would like to get good at. It's something that I think is very valuable, um, or it's something that I value. Let's say it's valuable to me, because I want to be able to share with the world, and more importantly, share with the people I love, what I think and how I feel accurately, without um, accurately and easily, without unintended consequences, or yeah, unintended consequences, perhaps is the way to put it. And what I mean by that is the example that comes to mind is I tend to have a hard time, especially when I um, talking to and discussing with my wife. I tend to have a hard time explaining how I feel about situations. Right? I have these feelings. I know how I feel, but I don't know how to put it into words. Um, and perhaps it's not exactly related to what I'm talking about. Um, perhaps it's more of introspection kind of thing and being in touch with your feelings. But I see that my wife is excellent at it. Like, she can pinpoint exactly how she feels about something and express it in a very delicate uh, way, without while being very thoughtful and mindful, and not hurtful, even when the feeling is bad, right? Like when she feels hurt, not being hurtful to me, when I've hurt her. I guess this sounds extremely selfish, but um anyways, it's an observation, and I am not able to reciprocate. I'm not able to do that as well. I tend to, when these situations happen, I tend to feel overwhelmed. I don't know how to react. I'm like, yeah, I know that I don't feel good, let's say, about a certain thing, a certain event, certain situation, certain thought. It triggers some sort of anxiety response within me, and I know that it's a bad feeling, right? Let's label it as bad, but I don't know how to explain it at the moment. And she'll be like, but tell me how you feel about it. It's like, and my response tends to be, I don't know how to explain how I feel. I need to sit with it for a while. And yeah, I don't know why that is. And I want to get better at it, and I'm hoping this um, exercise helps me get better at it. So yeah, it really is an art form. I really respect people who do this. Um, More so, I respect people that can do this with a substance behind it. I mean, you can respect the art form, and not the art itself, I guess. Right. Um, I'm not gonna say that everyone who's a public speaker, like, it's able to be good at speaking. I'm going to respect what they're saying, or like, um, agree with what they're saying, or admire their art, let's call it, because I think that it's a combination of both the means and the substance, right? The methodology, which is the act of doing the speaking and the articulation, but also, what are you talking about, right? I feel like this goes back to what we discussed in last time. Just like, sometimes thoughts tend to be, or people share things that are very shallow, and or perhaps for the wrong intentions, right? Like, you're a great communicator, but you're communicating for the sake of communication itself, and cloud and whatever, popularity and whatnot, and those things, I guess, I don't resonate with too much. I like, clearly, like I said at the beginning, I resonate more with, like, deeper thought, let's say, like, more so substantial about, um I don't know, without trying to sound pretentious, right? Like, I feel like she sounds pretentious saying, "Oh, well, I'm more into deeper thought and philosophy," but it's what's interesting, and kind of trigger some sort of interest in my brain, right? Monkey brain activate. um, but yeah, that was another thought that was kind of interesting. Oh yeah, I think that's gonna be it for today. Um, like I said, there were a few other things that I wanted to talk about, but I haven't processed them enough to be able to even talk about them. I guess the whole point of doing this is practice. So if I want to get good at it, at processing, while I am processing a thought while I'm talking about it, perhaps I should try. So let's give it a shot. All right, fuck it. Let's try. One thing that I saw today. There's this guy on Instagram and YouTube, and honestly, he's been a huge inspiration for me to do this. And it kind of goes back to what I was saying in the beginning of, you being an aggregate of everything that you consume. There's a few people that kind of, um, not personally motivated me, but like seeing them do it, that's made me feel like, well, that's something I would like to do too. That's something that I respect, and I think you're so cool for doing it, and I can be cool too, right? I am cool, and I can show that. perhaps to the world. Um, and there's this guy, I really forget his name. I think it's Jeff something. Um, is super famous right now, super popular, and he's very polarizing. He really is. He kind of my second point. He's very much on the this is my opinion of the world, like that, but more stating it as like as a true statement, like something about like today he was talking about something about how Napoleon uh, said something regarding like how poor people don't overthrow the rich because they're afraid or something. And he's very much anti-establishment, and I respect that. I like that. I'm not going to say I am as well, but I like a variety of things, um, and I can get behind it to a certain degree. But along the lines of anti-establishment and kind of like Fight Club vibes, he was talking about how only he said and this might have been a quote for somebody else, but only slaves um, justify their existence through the value that they bring. It was something, I might be paraphrasing, but it was something along those lines. And what he is talking about is, I mean, I think it's pretty self explanatory, right? He's talking about how your value as a human, as a person, as a being is not directly correlated to the economic. And I think the whole thing was phrased in like or pointed at the economic sense of the word value, or like how much you can produce for someone in terms of monetary value, right? And how that is something that is unnatural, let's say. With Now, I am deciding whether I agree or not with that second piece. I think the first part I really like. I really do think that as a society, we have kind of lost our sense, not as a society. I feel as people in a society, we have lost our sense of value and perhaps even sense of purpose, really. Like I think everybody feels the same way that I feel most sometimes, and honestly a lot of the times, of like kind of like lost and empty, right? um I think a lot of people feel this way, just based on what I see and hear online and from people I talk to. And yeah, it's almost like our overlords or the people in charge, you know, have made it so this the way society works is that your value is directly correlated with how much value you can bring to a corporation. Like especially like in the world of corporate America that most of us live in. Yeah, it really is. You sacrifice your honestly your time, of course. You sacrifice your relationships for the most part, really, considering that you spend most of your time working. Um, you sacrifice your health, even like that much time spent at work or sitting down for most of us, uh, you know, desk jobs, um, and these like cycles of high cortisol, because like it really is. I mean, at least personally and honestly, for the most again for with most people I talk to, really is triggering, right? When you have like, I don't know, getting like an email for your boss or your director in like or like a random call or like Teams message, shit like that, like spiking your cortisol, affecting your health definitely affecting your health. So you're sacrificing all these things for what? For a, for money. You're bringing on, what's the word I'm looking for? The amount of money that you bring in for the company, it's a lot more than it is what you're getting paid for. Like I was, it's something, I don't remember where I read this, but it was something along the lines of like, you as an employee should be bringing like 10 times their annual salary as revenue for the company, for something like that. So it's like you are sacrificing all these things for for and for most people, a very miserable paycheck that don't even cover the costs for you to live. And for what? For growing somebody else's business. And I think that was this kid's whole point, right? He was just talking about how we should, everyone should not subscribe to the system, and we live in an era where, like, with unprecedented opportunity, especially with social media, where you can make money online somehow, this mysterious obscure sources of income that, for me, goes beyond me. I really do not understand them, and I think that's, of course, it's a me problem. A lot of people do it. I mean, a lot of people live from this, but I not anyone that I know, or not any, like, I don't know how it works, right? I know, and I think that's kind of his point. Most of us don't know how that is a possibility, or don't even see it as a real possibility. Therefore, you go for what's safe, which is just getting a job, right? And working. And I think that's been the kind of his point for a long time, is why not risk in doing something for yourself without having to give all these sacrifices, for this kind of like lopsided, um, return, let's say, right? And I don't know. Um, like I said, I think there we are lost. I think, as a person, I feel like, um, I need to internalize this and accept it and find my value elsewhere, perhaps. I think that's the journey that I'm in right now. It's like seeing and identifying the things that I find valuable, and then match my internal value system to that, and, like, consciously. Um, and I think everyone, a lot of people need to do this. I think a lot of people are lost. And I think that was his point. Um, but also, it's scary. It's really scary to think about a life where, I don't know, it's terrifying for me if I don't have a paycheck, you know. Um, and especially me being such a, analytical person, that, um, in I'm not trying to sound pretentious while I say that, it is a good thing and definitely a bad thing. Um, what I was talking about, the lack of creativity from my side. Yeah, it's hard for me to see these different avenues to make a living, and it kind of, I don't know if this is the right word, but like kind of pigeonholes you to, like, kind of like shoves you into these predefined lanes of what you want to do with your life, and that is sad, and it leads to, for a lot of people, a lot of misery. Um, Life is more wonderful when you think about all the opportunities, and when you can actually capitalize on those opportunities, and you can, and more importantly, you can see those opportunities, which I think that's what my point, what I'm getting to, is that it's hard for me to see a life where I can make, a living, or I can support myself and my family outside of a job. I don't know if that even is realistic. um, it is realistic for a lot of people, but then, yeah, you need to consider survivorship bias, right? Like a lot of these people that share these things online can say, there, of course you can do this. If I can do it, anyone can do it. And I am a big subscriber to that thought, right? Like I am a big proponent of, if you can do it, I can do it. And if I can do it, anyone can do it, right? I am a big proponent of that. But also, as I've gotten older, you have to understand that there's more to it, right? I think that even with social media, and I don't know, these mysterious avenues of making money online, or I don't know, in the world outside of corporate, several people do it, but also a lot of people that you hear from are the ones that are successful. I think that it is also fair to consider that there's a lot of people that are not successful with this, right? A lot of people fail, and um, I don't know. Could you say that they ruined their lives because of it? That's probably a little too much, right? I don't think um, you can ruin your life from trying to make money offline. At least not if you're smart with it. Um, but anyways, I think this is turning into a whole different conversation of fear, right? And the fear of the unknown versus the comfort of the known. But yeah, it's a thought that I'm going to continue to digest. I I definitely agree with how horrible it's it 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 seems to, or how horrible it is to equate your value as a human and as a person who's alive and living, experiencing the full spectrum of life, um, attaching your value to how much money you bring for a company, right? And sadly, as a society, it is that way. Because if you're not valuable to a company, for most people, you're not going to be receiving value back. So you're not going to be paid, and then therefore you going to have a really tough time living, right? So it's kind of breaking out from that with that matrix. And he makes a lot of this guy Jeff. He makes a lot of references to that, um, which I think is a little cliche, but it's also it's funny. It's cool. Um, but yeah, it's a lot of fear on what are of the unknown. What are these other ways? But I don't know. Worth trying at the end of the day, right? What's the worst that can happen is that literally the worst that can happen is that you fail, and then you go back to your safe plan, right? And try again. So there's some substance to it. The upside is worth the risk. In Yeah, I think I think that's what it boils down to. Is that if you can do it successfully, your life would be so much better than if you don't even try, right? Hell, your life would be better if you try and you fail, because at least you gain all of that experience. It's a whole nother topic, which I feel like and a lot of people would agree with me. And this is like there's no lost time really, because everything that you do, you're living through it. You're learning. So, anyways, I think I'm yapping too much now, and I'm going in all sorts of directions. I'm probably gonna talk about some of these other topics at another time. I don't want this here to be too long. And that's enough for today. I need to save stuff for next time. I need to save stuff for tomorrow if I'm gonna be trying to make these videos every day. So yeah, enough for today. Thank you very much.